Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This time, I will be counting down my top 15 bucket list coasters from around the world. So let's just jump right into this. I've ridden coasters all across the United States, but unfortunately not yet had the pleasure of traveling the world to ride the amazing coasters overseas. So this list will mostly contain coasters across Europe and Asia, with a couple new ones for the United States. For honorable mentions, we have DC Rivals Hyper Coaster at Warner Brothers Movie World in Australia, and Phoenix at Toverland in the Netherlands. DC Rivals looks like an amazing mock hyper with the twisted drop and non-inverting loop, plus there's an amazing camelback and twisted hills, as well as snappy transitions. Then there you have the backwards facing seat that just looks absolutely amazing and would make the ride experience even more insane. Although from the POV and some reviews I've heard, the coaster kind of loses its snappy pacing and transitions near the end, but I'm still excited to experience it whenever I get the chance to. Then we have Phoenix, I'm going to call it that, at Toverland, which looks like the best B&M wing coaster by far. The trains look really cool, and the ride looks to have a nice setting with some good theming, actually. The wing over drop on the wing coasters is always great, and the airtime hill after looks to actually have good airtime. The inversions look whippy and the transitions look solid as well. Plus, wings typically have good forces in their helixes. I am just more looking forward to see some of the more unique and insane coasters on the list. Now, I want to give some real quick shout-outs to some other amazing looking coasters that didn't quite make the list. We have Conda at Walibi, Belgium, Untamed at Walibi, Holland, Osiris at Parque Asterix, Batman Gotham City Escape at Parque Warner, Madrid, Yukon Striker at Canada's Wonderland, Flying Dinosaur at Universal Studios Japan, and Falcon's Flight coming to Six Flags Qiddiya. But for the actual list, at number 15 we have Hyperion at Energylandia. This is a massive intimate hypercoaster with some unique trains. I haven't ridden Skyrush at Hershey Park either, but Hyperion looks miles better and more diverse. The first drop and first camelback look to have amazing airtime, before the whippy-looking turnaround and wave turn. Then there's some low-to-the-ground hills before some more low-to-the-ground twists that look to have amazing airtime and whip. The final twisted hill and bunny hop, plus the pop-up into the brakes, looks to have great, amazing airtime. The ride looks a little short and probably a little rattly, but it does have great restraints in the intimate overhead lap bars and just looks really good. At number 14, we have Flying Aces at Ferrari World. This is another intimate hypercoaster with the wing seating and looks even better than Hyperion. The first drop looks to have some amazing airtime and the pullout looks to have good forces. The non-inverting loop looks amazing as well. The transitions look to have great whip and the turns also look to have good lateral forces. The airtime hills all appear to have amazing sustained ejector, and the final corkscrew seems phenomenally whippy. The ride looks to pace very well, too, and I hear the restraints are comfortable, and the queue is well themed, too. At number 13, we have Phoenix at Farup Summerland in Denmark. This is a new-gen Vekoma Wildcat, and it just looks great. The ride may not be huge in stature, but it sure looks to pack a punch. The first drop looks small but mighty, and the first stall loop looks to have great hang time. The rest of the ride looks so quirky and unique. The shaping of the banking looks so flowy and wiggly as well. The rolls look to be insanely whippy. The hills all look to have amazing airtime as well. The ride just looks so fun and unique. It doesn't look as crazy as the other ones above it, but it looks really good, plus a nice setting and sleek trains. At number 12, we have Manta at SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. This is a new-gen Intamin Blitz coaster, and it looks really good. I know the trains will be super comfortable as they have the new-gen Intamin overhead lap bars, like Hyperion, And the ride honestly looks like a grown-up cheetah hunt. It has 3 launches, all that look punchy. The ride stays small and low to the ground, and the transitions all look whippy. The hills look to have good floater and ejector airtime, and all the inversions seem to be whippy, but floaty. And honestly, the ride doesn't look insane, just fun. At number 11, we have Zadra at Energylandia in Poland. This is a massive ground-up RMC Hyper Hybrid, and the ride looks amazing. The pacing looks absolutely phenomenal as well, but I'm kind of burnt out from the RMC Hybrids. Although this one looks great and the trains look cool too. The first drop looks phenomenal, like a combination of Iron Guazis and Steel Vengeances. The first element looks to have great whip and airtime as well as forces during the pullout. The stall looks to have amazing hang time like RE Force 1, and the wave turn looks super whippy and chock full of amazing airtime. Then the camelback looks similar to the amazing sustained ejector, like a larger version of Iron Guazi's final camelback. The small bunny hops look to have amazing ejector pops, and the final twist and barrel roll look to have amazing whip. The ride just looks so fun, but very similar to other hybrids. For number 10, we have Terran at Phantasialand in Germany. This is another Intamin Blitz with, of course, the new restraints. The trains look amazing with the battering ram theme, and the theming around the ride just looks absolutely phenomenal, being in the Klugheim section of the park. All of the rockwork and Viking buildings just look so cool, especially since my 2 favorite themes are Viking and Steampunk. The ride itself also looks very fun. It doesn't have any inversions or really any standout elements, but it just looks so cohesive and fun. There are so many snappy looking transitions and low to the ground elements. And I would say ground in quotations because a lot of the ground is fake. The Intamin launches are always so punchy, and this has 2. The ride twists around itself so many times, plus the theming and the rockwork, and it's so amazing looking without having any standout elements. At number 9, we have Sirens Curse at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. This is a new-gen Vekoma tilt coaster coming to Cedar Point in 2025. We only have animated footage of the ride, but it looks so flowy just like Phoenix. First off is the tilt track itself. This looks like such an amazing feature and a unique one. There's the actual drop, which looks to have a fun kink in it with good whip and possibly airtime. The rest of the ride just looks very flowy, and that final roll looks phenomenally whippy. The ride looks like it's gonna be very fun and unique, plus the trains look absolutely stunning with the lighting package. At number 8, we have FLY, or Fly, at Phantasialand in Germany. This is a new generation Vekoma Flying Dutchman. First of all, the theming, just like Terran, is phenomenal looking. The ride is located in the Rookburg section of the park, which is themed phenomenally to steampunk, with so many areas of that land that Fly dips and dives through. We don't really have a good POV of the ride, but it just looks very long and just fun. The rolls apparently have airtime on a flying coaster, which is kind of odd. The transitions all look to have whip and good forces. The restraints look super comfortable, and the boarding process is much better than the B&M flyers, not having you have to sit on the brake run for 20 minutes in an uncomfortable position. Plus, it has launches on a flying coaster, which should be weird. The ride looks amazing and so much fun, just not super crazy. At number 7, we have Leviathan at SeaWorld Australia. This is a monster gravity group wooden coaster and looks absolutely insane. The station looks to have amazing theming, and the trains just look so cool. I know from riding Wooden Warrior that the Timberliner trains from the Gravity Group are super comfortable. The first drop looks to have amazing sustained ejector, and the twisting triple down a little later also looks to have good ejector pops and laterals at the same time. The camelbacks look to have more amazing sustained ejector, and the helix should have great power. Then the ride goes through a run of twisting hills and tight turns that all look to have strong ejector and whip, or powerful laterals, while traveling through the structure with great head choppers. The train then traverses 2 more hills before turning into the brakes. The ride is probably going to get rougher, and hopefully the park will maintain it, maybe put some Gravity Group pre-cut track on it. But the ride also has a backward-facing seat that looks just amazing and could be up there as one of the most out-of-control coaster experiences on the planet. At number 6, we have the all-new Stardust Racers coming to Universal Epic Universe in Orlando in 2025. This is going to be a brand new mock multi-launch dueling coaster with 2 tracks, both over 5,000 feet. The trains look phenomenal with all the ornamental detailing and cool lighting patterns, plus Mock has some of my favorite coaster seats and restraints for being so comfortable, plus this is going to have on-ride audio. Then you have the ride experience, which starts off with a launch into an amazing looking top hat that should have great sustained ejector. The ride then enters a sharp turnaround with what looks like great airtime and whip before traversing 2 back-to-back camelbacks where the 2 tracks cross each other that should deliver more great airtime. After doing a couple airtime hills above the station, the trains rise up and then dive down, crossing paths in what should be a turn packed with great positives. Then comes a twisted hill that should be very whippy into the second launch. Then comes the ride's signature element called the Celestial Spin. The green track ascends into what should be a very whippy upward barrel roll over the yellow track, and then dives down in a normal top hat style exit that should have good airtime. The yellow track rises up like the first top hat and should deliver great airtime before traveling in a downward barrel roll that looks amazingly whippy over the green track. Afterwards comes a high turn and then a snappy looking element before some airtime hills into the brakes. The ride looks to pace phenomenally with amazing trains and good element combinations, and this could compete for the best coaster in Florida for sure. To kick off the top 5, we have Totatus at Parc Astrix in France. This is another new-gen Intamin Blitz coaster, and it's similar to Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. The trains look amazing with the woven nature of them, plus amazing restraints. The ride starts off with a drop into what should be a very punchy launch, and then an inversion that should have great hang time. If the ride is anything like Pantheon, the 2 outer banked hills won't do too much. Then comes the switch track and pulse launch with mid-launch airtime hill that should have good forces and mild airtime on the first pass. After the rollback, the reverse airtime hill should have great ejector before a forceful pull-up into a floaty spike. After diving down and pulling out into the final pass of the launch, which should be phenomenal, it should then pull up into a forceful top hat. The train then dives down the beyond vertical drop, which should have phenomenal sustained ejector. The turn at the bottom of the pullout looks phenomenally whippy before what should be a forceful pull-up into a whippy yet floaty 0G stall with amazing hang time. The turn afterwards has a mid-airtime hill with what looks like a sharp ejector pop before an amazing-looking camelback which should have amazing sustained ejector. Then comes what should be a super snappy twisted hill into a great but small-looking wave turn which should provide sharp ejector. Then comes the amazing-looking corkscrew over the queue with whip for days into a high turn and final double-up that should have good, sharp pops. The ride has an amazing setting among the trees and good theming during the first segment as well. At number 4, we have Lek Coaster at Legendia in Poland. This is a new-gen Vekoma Bermuda Blitz. It's very similar to Phoenix in shaping and look, but the ride appears to track the course faster and pull more forces than Phoenix. The first drop looks to be amazing with the twisted nature that should have amazing airtime and whip, plus forces on the pullout. The first inversion looks to have good whip yet hang time. The twisted hill and first camelback look to have great whip and ejector airtime. The ride doesn't look as flowy with the transitions into the elements, but the ride still looks very smooth. The 2 rolls look to have good whip as well, and all the valleys look to have good power, plus the ride has a nice setting over the lake for part of the ride, and then the interaction with the station and trees for the other portions. At number 3, we have Voltron Nevera at Europa Park in Germany. This is a brand new mock striker coaster, and it looks absolutely phenomenal. The trains look so amazing. The design and theme of them look cool with the lights on the sides and plush looking seats, which should be super comfortable because, to me, Mach makes amazing trains. The queue looks to have great theming, and the ride has a nice setting, too. The ride starts off with a bounce track before a vertical launch that looks very punchy into an inversion that should have hang time and whip. The first roll looks whippy, and the bunny hop should have good ejector before another whippy inversion. Then comes another punchy-looking launch into a hang time-filled stall, and then 2 funky airtime hills that look to have good whip and airtime, before one more inversion into some brakes. The train then goes through a turntable before what looks like a punchy reverse launch into a floaty spike, and then a punchy forward launch into a weird top hat that should be whippy and filled with airtime. Then comes a powerful looking camelback with great sustained ejector before an outer banked wave turn that should have good whip and more airtime, before a double up that should have good pops into the mid-course. The barrel roll drop off the mid-course looks whippy, and the small twister section with some low to the ground turns looks pretty powerful, before one whippy barrel roll and an airtime hill that should have good airtime into the brakes. The ride just looks so insane from start to finish, especially with this wing seating on the trains and the amazing setting plus great pacing. I seriously can't wait to get out to Germany to ride this as well as some of the other rides there soon. At number 2, we have Egenika, I'm not sure which, at Fuji-Q Highland in Japan. This is an insane SNS 4th dimension coaster that looks absolutely amazing. The ride starts off like X2 with a little pre-drop into the face-down drop just falling straight down at the ground, except Egenika is taller, so it should be even better. Afterwards, the train pulls up into a raven turn, and at the top, the seats do a full rotation that looks to have an amazing somersaulting sensation. The train then traverses a barrel roll while the seats also traverse another full rotation, which should pull some absolutely insane and unique forces while you are being pulled through the element. Then comes a high turn where the seats rotate so you are facing up, and should be floaty but forceful. The train then goes into another element that is similar to X2, where it starts like an airtime hill, but at the crest the track rotates 180 degrees and the seats flip to keep riders upright. On X2 it pulls amazing forces, and this should be the same way except even faster. The train then goes through a reverse raven turn and one final twist into the brakes that should be insanely whippy and pull some amazing G-forces. But as the train hits the brakes, the seats flip forward so riders feel like they will hit the catwalk, which is just weird and, I don't know, to me that's unnecessary but really cool. The ride just looks absolutely insane, like a bigger and better version of X2. It also looks smoother than X, which could make it better as well. The ride should just be absolutely insane and is something that I am so looking forward to. And for my biggest bucket list coaster, we have the Dog Fart Coaster at Bon Bon Land. Of course I'm kidding. It's actually Ride to Happiness at Plopsaland de Pan in Belgium. This is the second of 2 mock extreme spinners in the world, and I absolutely love its brother Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City. The ride looks like Time Traveler on steroids. Time Traveler has the most comfortable trains I've ever experienced, and this should be no different. Coupled with the steampunk theming makes this ride just a dream for me. Then there's the ride experience itself. You start with the slow JoJo roll straight out of the station like on Copperhead Strike. The Ride to Happiness does it while spinning, so it should be even better. Then there's the launch, which looks super punchy with the spinning, so it should provide airtime just like Time Traveler. Then the ride pulls up into a weird top hat, pretty forcefully actually, before banking outwards and diving down a drop with what should have amazing airtime. The ride then pulls up into a unique banana roll that looks whippy and flowy, especially while spinning. Then comes the vertical loop that should be just as hang time filled as on Time Traveler. Then comes a barrel roll that looks super whippy and should be even more insane while spinning. Then comes a twisted hill into the second launch that should have amazing airtime and whip, before a punchy looking launch with an airtime hill in the middle. The train then ascends into a super whippy looking barrel roll that ends like a dive loop and looks super whippy and forceful. Then there's an airtime hill turn that looks whippy and airtime filled, before a powerful looking overbank turn and final poppy double up into the brakes. This ride looks perfect and has an absolutely amazing soundtrack that fits the ride perfectly. It looks like a more insane version of Time Traveler, and I seriously can't wait to get on it. These coasters all look amazing, and I can't wait to experience all of them for one reason or another. Let me know down below what your top bucket list coaster is, or coasters are. But that's all for this time, and we'll see you all next time on another adventure.